All right, so we're diving into off-grid living and all these different energy solutions.
Yeah, a lot of information here.
We've got articles, best of lists for 2025.
Even a blog post.
Someone asking for advice. Sounds like people are serious about energy independence these days.
It is exciting to see how this whole field is growing.
Yeah.
Just a few years ago, off-grid living was kind of like niche, but now it's becoming much more accessible. Technology's getting better. People are really thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, it feels like it's almost like a movement now.
Definitely.
Okay, so flipping through these, most of these sources seem to say solar's the top choice if you're going off-grid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, makes sense, right?
It's popular for good reason.
Yeah.
Solar's becoming more efficient.
Yeah.
Less expensive. But it's important to remember, we're talking about two main types here.
Oh, okay.
Photovoltaic panels, those directly generate electricity, and then the solar water heaters.
Okay, so two very different applications. So if I'm thinking about going off-grid, I need to consider both. I need electricity and hot water.
Right.
Now, I also saw some mentions of solar cookers, which I think is super interesting.
Oh, yeah. Solar cookers are a great eco-friendly option, especially for sunny climates.
Yeah.
Imagine cooking your meals just using the power of the sun.
Reducing that carbon footprint. I like it. Oh, and one article mentioned Tesla solar roof tiles.
Oh, yeah.
They blend in just like regular roof tiles, but they generate power.
Yeah.
That's pretty stealthy. And they estimated the cost at about $42,500.
Wow.
For a 2,000 square foot roof, 10 kilowatt system. Not cheap.
No.
But what do you think about like cost benefit of that compared to like traditional panels?
Well, it's an interesting option, but it's like all solar, you need consistent sunshine.
Right.
And that actually brings up a key point. You need battery storage.
Okay.
That's essential for off-grid solar because
Yeah.
you need to capture that excess energy during the day so you can use it at night or on cloudy days.
So think of it like your energy savings account.
Exactly.
Solar panels capture, send it to the batteries. I can tap into it when I need it.
Yep.
Gotcha. Now, what about those solar index maps I saw mentioned?
Good point. The solar index basically measures how much solar radiation hits a specific location.
Okay.
So before you invest in any solar setup, you definitely want to check the index for your area, see if it's even viable.
Okay. So solar is great, but you need sunshine and batteries. Got it.
Yep.
Now, what about wind power? Several sources mention wind turbines as another good option, especially in places that, have consistent wind.
Right. And we're mostly talking about small-scale wind turbines here for homes or small communities.
Yeah.
Larger ones can be more efficient, but they need a lot more space
Yeah.
and a bigger upfront investment.
Yeah. I can't imagine a giant turbine would be ideal for my hypothetical off-grid cabin in the woods. But even with a smaller system, you'd need to think about placement, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to make sure there's enough open space, no obstructions, and there are some potential downsides too.
Okay.
Wind turbines can be noisy, and depending on the location, they could impact birds and bats.
Yeah. Important considerations if you're trying to, live in harmony with nature.
Exactly.
All right. Shifting gears a bit, one source mentioned micro hydropower systems.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great option if you've got a stream or a river on your property.
In the right spot, a micro hydro system can generate a surprising amount of power. One source said up to 100 kilowatts.
Wow, that's a lot of power from just flowing water.
Yeah.
But is it as simple as just plopping a turbine in the water and calling it a day?
Not quite. For efficient hydropower, you need year-round water flow.
Right.
Installation can be complex, and it's really important to consider the environmental impact.
Yeah, disrupting a stream's ecosystem kind of defeats the purpose of sustainable living.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm really curious about this waste into watts concept I saw.
Yes.
Biogas, I think it was called.
Biogas, yeah. It's a fascinating solution, especially for homesteaders.
Okay. Basically, you use organic waste, like manure or food scraps, to produce methane gas, and then you can use that for cooking, heating, or even generating electricity.
Sounds almost too good to be true. What are the downsides?
Well, the biggest challenge is ensuring a consistent input of organic material.
Right.
And then maintaining the right conditions for that digestion process, temperature, pH levels.
Okay.
It tends to work best in warmer climates.
Interesting. So maybe not ideal for everyone. Now, here's a technology I hadn't even heard of before. Wood gasification.
Oh, interesting.
One source highlighted it as an option if you have a lot of wood.
Okay.
So it's a process where wood is heated, but without enough oxygen for complete combustion.
Right.
And that produces this combustible gas called syngas, which can then power generators or engines.
Yeah.
So extracting energy from the wood without actually burning it What are the pros and cons there?
It's surprisingly efficient.
Okay.
And you get charcoal as a byproduct.
Oh, cool.
But wood gasification systems can be complex.
They need frequent cleaning.
So that might be a little more hands-on than some other options.
It can be, yeah.
Now, a couple of sources mention manual generators.
Oh, yeah.
Like the hand-cranked or pedal-powered kind. I even saw a video of a guy building a giant human-powered water wheel.
That's creative.
It was pretty wild.
While manual generators don't produce a ton of power,
Right.
they could be useful for, like, charging small devices.
Okay.
Providing light in emergencies.
Yeah, it's good to have a backup.
Exactly.
Okay, now for something a little more high-tech, thermoelectric generators.
Okay.
One source described them as devices that convert heat directly into electricity.
Yeah.
And they come in various sizes, from small camp stoves to larger installations.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on their potential for off-grid living?
They can be a good option, especially if you already have a heat source like a wood stove.
Right.
You're essentially capturing wasted heat and turning it into usable electricity.
Oh, okay.
The efficiency varies depending on the fuel source and the temperature difference.
So it's like a bonus energy source. You're already generating heat for other purposes.
Exactly.
So why not capture some of that energy and put it to work?
That's the idea.
I like it, that idea of like maximizing your resources. And that kind of brings us to a crucial point, I think, hybrid systems.
Yes.
Tell me more about hybrid systems. Are we talking like electric cars?
Not quite. In the context of off-grid living, a hybrid system combines different energy sources
Okay.
to create a more reliable and resilient power supply.
Gotcha.
So, for example, you could have solar panels for daytime energy, a wind turbine for when it's windy, and then a backup generator for emergencies.
So it's about having multiple options to cover your bases, no matter what Mother Nature throws your way.
Exactly. It's a great way to leverage the strengths of each technology while mitigating their weaknesses.
Okay.
Like solar panels are great during the day, but not so much at night. Wind turbines can be inconsistent, depends on the wind patterns. But by combining them, you create a more balanced and dependable system.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, speaking of balancing, several sources really emphasize the importance of battery storage, particularly for solar and wind power.
Yeah, batteries are essential because they store that excess energy generated during peak production times.
Okay.
Without batteries, you would only have power when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing.
So the batteries act like a buffer, smooth out the ups and downs.
Precisely. And there are different types of batteries to consider.
Okay.
Lithium iron phosphate batteries or LiFePO4, they're becoming increasingly popular for off-grid systems because of their longer lifespan, safety features, and deeper discharge capabilities.
So it's not just a matter of any battery will do.
Right.
You got to choose the right type.
You need to choose the right type based on your system's needs and your budget.
Exactly. And beyond choosing the right technology, there are other factors, other crucial factors to consider when planning an off-grid system.
Definitely.
Like what else should I be thinking about?
Well, one source really emphasized energy efficiency. It's not just about generating power. It's about using it wisely.
Right.
Proper insulation, weatherization, energy-efficient appliances, all of that can drastically reduce your overall energy needs.
So even if I have like a top-notch off-grid power system, if my house is leaking energy like a sieve, I'm not going to be truly energy independent.
Exactly. It's about creating a holistic approach to sustainable living.
Yeah.
And part of that involves education and awareness.
So don't just jump into off-grid living blindly.
Right.
You know, do your research, learn from others, really understand what it takes to generate and manage your own power.
Absolutely. And speaking of realities, we need to consider the financial aspect.
Okay.
Setting up an off-grid system requires an initial investment, which can vary depending on the technologies you choose and the size of your home.
Yeah, so it's important to be realistic about the costs, have a budget.
Absolutely. And don't forget about ongoing maintenance costs.
Oh, right.
All off-grid systems need regular upkeep, and those expenses can add up.
So this is not a set it and forget it situation.
No.
Off-grid living requires a commitment to maintaining your systems, making sure they're operating efficiently.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process. But the rewards of energy independence and that lower environmental impact could be well worth the effort.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
And I'm feeling more informed, but I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed, to be honest. Look, I like the idea of energy independence, but there's a lot to figure out.
There is, but one of the best ways to get started is to understand your own energy consumption habits.
Okay.
One source pointed out that most people have no idea how many watts they use daily.
That's probably true. I'm probably guilty of that too. I just flip a switch and expect the lights to come on.
Right? We don't think about where that energy is coming from.
Yeah.
So a great first step towards exploring off-grid options is to become more aware of your energy usage.
Okay.
Track your consumption for a week or two.
So like creating a budget.
Exactly. But for energy instead of money.
That's a great idea.
It is.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. Before you choose a system,
Hmm.
you need to understand your needs, your consumption patterns.
Absolutely. And that awareness will help you make more informed decisions about the best off-grid solutions for your specific situation.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
Good.
I'm actually excited to start tracking my energy usage.
Great.
It's like a little challenge, see how much I can reduce my consumption.
I love that attitude. Every step towards energy consciousness, whether it's tracking your usage or exploring these off-grid options, it's a positive step towards a more sustainable future.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we'll delve even deeper into the world of off-grid living.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
And it's not just about like the total amount of energy you use. It's also about when you use it.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. Tell me more about that.
Well, think about your daily routines. Like, we tend to use a lot of energy-hungry appliances at the same time,
Oh, yeah.
especially during peak hours in the evening.
Yeah, like when I get home from work, I crank up the AC, throw a little laundry in, start preheating the oven.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see how that would create a spike in energy demand.
Exactly. That's what's called peak demand, the time of day when your energy consumption is at its highest.
Okay.
And this is a crucial factor to consider when you're designing an off-grid system.
So if my solar panels are like generating less energy in the evening and I'm simultaneously cranking up the usage, that could be a problem.
It could be, yeah, if your energy generation isn't keeping up with your consumption during those peak hours.
Right.
You could overload your system. You might experience power outages.
Oh, wow.
So understanding your peak demand patterns is really important.
So it's not just about like having enough energy overall, it's about having enough at the right times.
Exactly. You need to anticipate your needs and make sure your system can handle those surges in demand.
That makes sense. So how do I figure out my peak demand? Do I need to like hire an energy consultant or something?
It's actually simpler than you might think. You could start by just paying close attention to your energy usage habits.
Okay.
When do you typically use the most energy? Which appliances are the biggest energy hogs?
So just being more mindful of my energy use throughout the day.
Exactly.
Okay, I can do that.
And if you're really serious about optimizing your off-grid system, there are energy monitoring tools you can use.
Okay.
These tools can give you detailed insights into your energy usage patterns, and that can really help you identify those peak demand periods.
That sounds pretty high tech, but also super helpful.
Yeah, technology can be a powerful ally in this quest for energy independence. It's about using these tools strategically to make informed decisions about your energy consumption and your system design.
This is making me realize that going off grid is like a lot more involved than I initially thought.
It can be.
It's not just about the technology. It's about really understanding your energy needs and like making conscious choices about how you use power.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a holistic approach. It requires careful planning, research, and a willingness to adapt and learn.
It's like a whole new way of thinking about energy, not just as something that like magically appears when I flip a switch,
Right.
but as a resource that I need to manage and conserve.
Exactly. And that shift in mindset is essential for successful off-grid living.
Okay, now speaking of sustainability, one of the sources mentioned the importance of community involvement in off-grid living. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. One of the beautiful things about off-grid living is that it often fosters a strong sense of community.
Okay.
You know, people come together to share knowledge, resources, and even labor.
So it's like a network of support for those who are navigating the challenges and rewards of off-grid living?
Exactly. Imagine having a group of like-minded neighbors who can help you troubleshoot a problem with your solar panels, lend a hand installing a wind turbine, or just share tips on how to conserve energy.
That sounds amazing.
It's a great way to connect with others.
It's like a modern-day barn raising, but for renewable energy systems.
I love that analogy. It really captures the spirit of collaboration and mutual support
Yeah.
that often characterizes these off-grid communities.
It's inspiring to think about people coming together to create a more sustainable future, not just for themselves, but for their communities, for the planet as a whole.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all in this together, and by working collaboratively, we can achieve so much more than we could alone.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about the technical and logistical aspects of off-grid living, but I'm also curious about the emotional side of things.
Oh, that's an important aspect to consider. Going off-grid is a big change. It's a step outside of the comfort zone.
It's like stepping off the beaten path
Exactly.
and forging your own trail.
And that can bring up a lot of emotions.
Like what? What are some of the emotional challenges people might face?
Well, for some people, it might be a sense of isolation. Moving away from the convenience and familiarity of the grid
Right.
can feel like disconnecting from the world.
They're cutting the cord.
Exactly. And that can be both liberating and unsettling.
Liberating because you're not reliant on those systems anymore, but unsettling because you're stepping into the unknown.
Precisely. And then there's the fear of the unknown. Off-grid living requires a certain level of self-reliance, problem-solving skills.
It's like you're becoming your own utility company.
In a way, yes. And that can feel daunting, especially if you're used to having access to a support system.
Yeah, like calling an electrician when the power goes out.
Exactly. Or relying on the city water supply.
Right.
Suddenly those safety nets are gone, and you're responsible for your own well-being.
Wow.
And that responsibility can feel heavy at times.
Yeah, but I imagine it can also be incredibly empowering.
Absolutely. When you overcome those challenges and learn to rely on your own capabilities, you develop a deeper sense of confidence and resilience.
So going off-grid can be a transformative experience, not just in terms of your physical environment, but also your personal growth.
It's a journey of self-discovery. It's about learning to adapt, to problem solve, to trust your own instincts.
It sounds like a crash course in resourcefulness and resilience.
It can be, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Because when you learn to live sustainably and independently, you tap into a wellspring of inner strength and creativity.
So the emotional challenges are real, but the potential rewards are immense.
Exactly. It's all about finding a balance, embracing the challenges, celebrating the triumphs, and recognizing that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
I love that perspective because it's not about achieving some like idealized version of off-grid perfection.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the messy, imperfect reality of living in harmony with nature.
And with yourself.
Yeah, and with yourself.
It's about finding your own rhythm, your own way of connecting with the land, with your community, and with your own inner resources.
That's a beautiful thought. Now, we talked earlier about calculating your energy consumption as a first step towards exploring off-grid options. But let's get even more specific. What are some practical things listeners can do, like right now, to start reducing their energy usage and preparing for a potential off-grid future?
That's a great question. There are so many simple yet effective things you can do today to start making a difference. It all starts with awareness. Becoming more mindful of your energy consumption habits is the first step.
So, like paying attention to how long I leave the lights on, how often I use the dishwasher, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Once you start tracking your usage, you'll be amazed at how many opportunities there are to conserve energy without sacrificing comfort or convenience.
Okay, awareness is key, but what about concrete actions? Give me some tips.
Well, for starters, switch to energy-efficient lighting. LED bulbs use a fraction of the energy of traditional incandescent bulbs, and they last much longer.
That's an easy one. I've already switched most of the bulbs in my house to LEDs, and I've definitely noticed a difference in my energy bills.
Excellent. Another simple change is to unplug electronics and appliances when you're not using them. Even when they're turned off, many devices still draw a small amount of power.
Oh, right. The phantom load.
Exactly, the phantom load.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of leaving things plugged in, my phone charger, my laptop, even my coffee maker. It's time to break those bad habits.
It's a small change, but it can make a big difference over time. And speaking of appliances, consider upgrading to more energy-efficient models when it's time to replace your old ones.
Okay.
Look for appliances with high Energy Star ratings, which indicate they meet certain energy efficiency standards.
So if I'm in the market for a new refrigerator, I should prioritize energy efficiency over other features. Got it.
Exactly. And don't forget about water heating. It's often a major energy drain in households.
Yeah.
Consider switching to a tankless water heater, which only heats water on demand.
Ugh. Tankless water heaters. I've heard good things about them.
They're much more energy efficient.
They provide endless hot water, right?
Exactly. They can be a great investment, especially if you're looking to reduce your energy consumption.
Okay, those are all great tips for reducing energy usage inside the house, but what about outside? Are there any energy saving strategies for, like, the yard or garden?
Absolutely. One source mentioned the concept of xeriscaping, which is basically landscaping with drought-tolerant plants.
Oh, interesting.
It's a fantastic way to reduce your water usage and create a more sustainable outdoor space.
So instead of a lush, water-guzzling lawn, you could have a beautiful garden filled with native plants that thrive in your local climate.
Exactly. You save water, you reduce your environmental impact, and you create a stunning landscape that requires less maintenance.
That sounds right up my alley. Xeriscaping it is. Okay, so we've covered a lot of practical steps people can take to reduce their energy usage and start thinking about these off-grid possibilities. But I think it's important to acknowledge that going off-grid isn't always easy or feasible for everyone.
You're absolutely right. It's a lifestyle choice that requires significant planning, preparation, and often financial investment. And there are certainly challenges and limitations to consider.
Like what? What are some of the potential roadblocks?
Well, for starters, not all locations are created equal when it comes to off-grid living.
Okay.
Some areas might have limited sunlight, inconsistent wind patterns, or other factors that make it difficult or expensive to generate power reliably.
So location is crucial.
Absolutely. And then there's the issue of land availability and zoning regulations. Setting up an off-grid homestead often requires a decent amount of space for energy generation, water collection, potentially even growing your own food.
Right. You can't just plop down a wind turbine or solar array wherever you please.
Exactly. And some areas might have strict zoning laws that restrict or prohibit certain off-grid practices.
So it's important to do your research, make sure you're following the rules.
Absolutely. And then there's the financial aspect. Setting up a self-sufficient off-grid system can require a substantial investment, especially if you're looking to power a large home or run energy-intensive appliances.
So it's not a decision to be taken lightly. It requires careful planning and budgeting.
Precisely. And it's also crucial to factor in the ongoing maintenance costs. Off-grid systems require regular upkeep, and those expenses can add up over time.
So going off-grid is not for the faint of heart. It's a commitment. It requires thorough planning, a realistic budget, and a willingness to adapt and learn.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a journey, not a destination. It's important to approach it with a realistic mindset and a spirit of adventure.
The spirit of adventure, I like that. All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground here today, but we're not done yet. When we come back, we'll wrap up our deep dive into off-grid living with some final thoughts and insights. Stay with us.
Yeah, it really does sound like going off-grid. I mean, it's as much a mental shift as it is a physical one,
It is. It really is.
You're taking control of your energy, but you're also becoming way more aware of your reliance on it.
Yeah, and it can be a real journey of self-discovery and empowerment.
Yeah.
And, it might not be feasible for everyone to go completely off-grid.
Right.
But I think there's so much we can all learn from this movement.
Yeah, that's a great point. Even if I don't end up building a solar-powered cabin in the woods,
right,
I'm already thinking differently about my energy consumption just from this conversation.
That's the ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even small changes, if enough people make them, it can have a huge impact.
Yeah, I'm definitely swapping out those old light bulbs now for LEDs, unplugging those phantom load culprits.
Yes.
But beyond those individual actions, what about the bigger picture?
Well, one source highlighted the role of policy and infrastructure in supporting a wider shift towards sustainable energy.
So what kind of things?
Things like tax incentives for renewable energy, streamlining permitting processes for small-scale energy projects, investing in a smarter grid that can handle more distributed energy sources.
So it's not just about individual choices.
It's not just about individual choices. It's about creating a system that makes sustainable living more accessible and affordable for everyone.
Right. So it's about creating a future where clean energy is the norm, not the exception.
Exactly.
And speaking of the future, where do you see this whole off-grid movement heading in the next few years?
Well, I think we're going to see continued innovation in renewable energy technologies, making them even more efficient and cost-effective.
Sure.
Battery technology is also rapidly evolving, longer lifespans, higher capacities. So it'll become easier, and I'm assuming cheaper, to store energy generated from those sources like solar and wind.
Exactly. And I think we'll see more focus on community-based energy solutions, microgrids, peer-to-peer energy sharing.
Oh, like neighbors can trade excess energy with each other.
Exactly. It's like the sharing economy, but for energy.
I love that. Brings back that sense of community we were talking about.
It does. And I think there's also going to be a growing emphasis on energy literacy and education.
Okay.
More people will understand how energy works, how to reduce their consumption, how to make informed choices about their energy sources.
Right, so we're not just passive consumers anymore.
Exactly.
We're becoming like active participants in shaping our energy future.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's a really exciting time to be exploring these ideas.
Well, I have to say, this deep dive has been eye-opening.
Good, I'm glad.
I went from feeling a little overwhelmed at the beginning, like we were talking about,
Yeah.
to genuinely inspired.
That's what we were hoping for. It's a complex topic.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly empowering
Yeah.
to realize that we have choices when it comes to our energy.
Absolutely. Even if going fully off grid isn't like in the cards for me right now,
Sure.
I'm definitely walking away with a deeper appreciation for sustainable living
Yeah.
and a renewed commitment to reducing my own energy footprint.
And that's a huge step in the right direction. Remember, every little bit counts.
So to our listener out there, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of off-grid living and sustainable energy.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you're feeling as energized and informed as I am.
And remember, the journey towards energy independence starts with a single step. Whether it's switching to LED bulbs, tracking your energy consumption, or just becoming more aware of your choices, every action you take makes a difference.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking questions. The future of energy is in our hands, and together we can create a brighter, more sustainable world.